Preseason game against the Texans is coming up, and there are all kinds of fascinating battles all over the depth chart. This is everything you need to know going into Saturday's preseason opener. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. I appreciate you all so very much. Today on the show, this is the last time we're going to talk before the Vikings play a real actual preseason game. So here's the deal. If you are new here, here's how this works on the Locked On Podcast Network for Minnesota. We'll have this show, goes up Friday morning. Tomorrow there will be a tomorrow there will be a preseason game. Afterwards, directly afterwards, clock hits 000. Sam, Ron, and I think Luke Inman too, will be live on this channel and on Locked On Minnesota Sports on YouTube, and the audio will go up later on the Locked On Vikings audio feed, so you'll get that audio later, pretty much right after we finish, so you can catch up to that, to break down everything that happened in the game, instant reactions, that sort of thing. And then we will continue as normal on Monday morning with more Locked On Vikings, maybe a little bit more in-depth analysis. I'll watch the tape. There'll be stuff on my Patreon. Very excited to get started there. So what I want to do today is go over the Vikings released an unofficial depth chart. This is not the most important thing to me. It's unofficial. It's not made by coaches. I don't even know how much input coaches and like the people who actually make these decisions have in this unofficial depth chart. I think they kind of don't want to, because they don't want to like commit to anything by making it public. So this is all very nebulous. However, it's a reasonable tool to give us at least a sense for where people are at. There are a few surprises on there. It's just hard to tell if that's a surprise because the person doesn't realize some roster motion has happened. That is, somebody playing with the twos a lot. They didn't realize or don't know if that's for a real reason or just standard rotation. Or is it really, the way the depth chart has shaken out? And I think I find that I agree with some of those and I don't agree with some of those in terms of how this is put together. But what we can do is go down this list position by position and talk about the actual battles that are going on and how they are going to be affected by the preseason game. I think this preseason game will have wall-to-wall interesting moments. Fourth quarter, when all the backups are in, guys you've never heard of. Remember, these guys are fighting for their lives. This is their Super Bowl. I adore the fourth quarter of preseason games because it's quiet. The broadcast is going to be like interviewing people by then. They're not going to care. It's not going to be high octane at all. But for like Keenan Garber, this is the most important football he's ever played. For Chaz Chambliss, this is his chance to overtake somebody like Gabe Murphy or whoever, or Tyler Batty or whatever. This is his chance to go make a mark. This is where you see Bo Richters make the team. This is where you see guys like T.Y. McGill have like these crazy. This is where you get those guys. This is where Adam Thielens are born. I think it's awesome. The level of intensity is like playoff caliber for just totally not playoff caliber players, but they're giving playoff caliber efforts. I think it's so beautiful. So let's start with the quarterbacks. So the obvious big news is J.J. McCarthy is going to play. How much is he going to play, you may ask? I would guess 1 or 2 series. A quarter max. If he's still playing in the second quarter, I'd be a little surprised, or maybe he's just finishing out that drive. I don't think you're going to get a whole half of J.J. McCarthy. I think they just want to get his feet wet a little bit. Get him that one first hit, right? Get him a little bit, get him through a couple of huddles. Even if it's a quick drive, right? Even if it's one first down and then maybe punt after like 5 or 6 plays. That's enough for me, I think. I'm really glad he's playing. I think there's a big temptation to keep him out to never risk any injury at all. And I think that's a little bit too scared. I think he really can use some in-a-game reps with the in-a-game cadence and rhythm to that of go to the sideline, huddle, and all of that. You can simulate it in practice and in joint practice well enough. But I think that operationally, I'm really glad he's getting in there a little bit, but I don't need to see him play a whole half, okay? We don't need to do this like we would have done it his rookie year, where you have him play like 2 full quarters and really get a big bunch of tread on his tires. Really, the intrigue for me is in the backup QB situation. So this is going to be geared toward you if you have not paid attention to camp at all. You've come to the right place. I'm going to give you the rundown of what has happened here. So Sam Howell started as the second team QB. It seemed like he was locked up, backup QB. He was the guy, and the Vikings weren't really super heavily considering Brett Rippon or Max Brosmer to take over for him. That has changed. That is no longer true. After a week or two of Sam Howell having a few absolutely dreadful practices, tons of interceptions, really struggling in camp, the Vikings have started to make him split reps with Brett Rippon. So now Brett Rippon and Sam Howell are in a true 50-50 neck-and-neck battle for that backup QB spot. Max Brosmer has had a few moments in camp, but it seems like he's pretty still firmly the fourth. But I don't even know if he's going to play in this preseason game. Sometimes that guy only plays in like the last one. But you know, it's certainly not over for him either if he can make a couple of big plays in whatever moments he does get. But really, Sam Howell and Brett Rippon, comparing those two is going to be a useful exercise for who wins that backup job and maybe who even makes the team. Because if you lose that backup job and you're the third guy, if Max Brosmer shows anything, you cut the veteran and you keep the young, well, yeah, he's like 26, but you keep the rookie and see if that he becomes your kind of developmental emergency third QB that's like that doesn't count toward your game day activations. And then that's your three. Moving on to running back. You're definitely not going to see any Aaron Jones. I don't think you're going to see a lot of Jordan Mason either. I think those guys are going to be on ice. So this becomes Ty Chandler fending off the two young guys. The Ty Chandler thing is fascinating. He currently does not have the kick return job. He's been the kick returner the last couple of years. At least on this depth chart, it's Ty Felton. That matches more or less with what we've seen in camp. And sort of the reputation of Ty Felton as the guy that should be the returner, right? Like that was part of why you drafted him, was because of what he did on special teams. So if Ty Felton does ice that and truly takes that job, and by the way, the kick return job is fascinating in and of itself. Will Ty Felton get all of the reps? Will Ty Chandler get any chances here? Or have we kind of seen enough of him? We know how good he is. Give it all to the rookie and see if he beats that standard. I kind of think that's how it's going to go down. But without the kick return job, that takes a big special teams thing away from Ty Chandler. That doesn't make him useless on special teams. He's still a really good personal protector on punts. He can still cover kickoffs very well. He's good at both of those jobs, which helps you make the team really big. But there's been a lot of camp hype over undrafted rookie Zoever Scott, UConn and Maine, Army brat, and he has sort of flashed. So he's kind of gunning for that third running back job. The way it probably shakes out in this first preseason game is you're probably going to see Ty Chandler for the first quarter, and then Zoever Scott and Trey Stewart bring it home and play a lot more. Zoever Scott has a chance. If Zoever Scott has a good game, really shows that burst and shows what the reporters have been talking about in camp, he could leapfrog Ty Chandler, and then suddenly Ty Chandler's hold on a 53-man roster spot gets a lot weaker. This is what I call like a king of the hill situation. Ty Chandler has the job. Trey Stewart, Zoever Scott, these young guns are kind of trying to get it. And he has to fend off all the other challengers to the throne. At wide receiver, this might be the most interesting one on the whole roster. Obviously, you're not going to see Jefferson. He's still dealing with his hamstring. You weren't going to see him anyways. Jordan Addison won't play. I doubt Jalen Naylor plays either. Maybe you get him for like one drive with J.J. McCarthy just to give somebody that J.J. McCarthy's like been more familiar with out there. But you're not going to see a ton of him, if any. The real intrigue, and in this unofficial depth chart, they listed Lucky Jackson on the second team and they're only doing a team. So that's Lucky Jackson, wide receiver 4. Let me repeat that. That's Lucky Jackson, former, I think XFL, before the UFL merger, deep ball threat for the DC Defenders, Lucky Jackson, wide receiver 4. This matches the reports out of camp. If you've missed camp, if you haven't paid attention at all, this is one of the bigger surprises is how high Lucky Jackson has climbed on this depth chart. He probably wasn't on a whole bunch of people's 53-man rosters. He should be on your 53-man roster now. He has climbed the depth chart as wide receiver 4. He probably starts the game and then comes out maybe like when Ty Chandler does, right? So you want to see him continue what he did in camp. This is somebody that if he drops 2 passes or gets clamped or has a really bad, runs a wrong route, has a really bad preseason game, it erases all of that goodwill and he shoots right back down to the bottom of the roster. But it puts him ahead of Ty Felton, Jayshon Jones, who's also gotten a reasonable amount of camp hype and has a good chance to make the team, Rondale Moore, who's listed on the 4th team in this depth chart, Tim Jones, who made the Jacksonville Jaguars 4 years in a row, Silas Bolden, Thayer Thomas, both of them have gotten some hype, Dante Fleming. It puts him ahead of all of those guys. So when Sam Howell is out, I'm going to guess he goes first. But when Sam Howell and Brett Rippon are out, second, third quarter of this game, who is in at wide receiver? And in what order they sub, right? And who does well at wide receiver is going to be absolutely fascinating. Not to mention, what do we see out of Ty Felton? This is going to be our first real sustained look at Ty Felton in a Vikings uniform. I have been pretty critical of that draft pick on this show. I didn't like that pick. You have one good preseason game, you change my mind, right? You show me that, I immediately give up on my draft pick. Anything you do in a real NFL uniform is going to go so much longer than whatever you do in college and what I think of that. So there's a lot of intrigue. Rondale Moore is another interesting one. He might be fighting for his job on this roster. He does have the punt return job. So similar to kick return, punt return is going to be a big one. But he's fighting for a spot on this roster still. His contract is not prohibitive. There's not enough guaranteed money to stop you from cutting him if he doesn't make your 53. So is Lucky Jackson kicking Rondale Moore off the roster? That might be happening. There's so much more interesting stuff going on all the way through the trenches, special teams. There's so much to watch. That'll all be next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Monarch Money. If you've ever looked at your bank account and then had it fallen into a cold sweat and panicked until you blacked out and you woke up in a dark alley somewhere, Monarch Money, might be right for you. If managing your money just feels like it is too stressful and too hard, let Monarch Money do a ton of the work for you. It is an all-in-one app that is basically meant to replace all the other financial apps that you have right now. It helps you budget, it helps you manage and track your investments, it helps you manage and track the activity in a joint account so you and your partner can stay on the same page. And you can do all kinds of things like tracking your spending, figuring out where you could maybe cut back, or finding better investment strategies so you can actually build some wealth and set your financial goals and then work toward them. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off of your first year. Today's episode is also brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. The preseason is here, and that means it is time for Yahoo Fantasy. That's time to get your fantasy drafts going, and Yahoo is the place to do it. They've been doing this forever, almost 3 decades of Yahoo Fantasy football. Everything I'm doing on fantasy is on the Yahoo Fantasy app with Yahoo, and you should use it too, whether you're a first timer or a veteran making your millionth league. They have all kinds of really cool, fun features. They're coming out with a bunch of new ones, but it also is just a smooth app. It just works, and it works quickly, which can matter a lot in your fantasy season when you're trying to make a last-second waiver claim, or it's 11:59 and you need to make a start-sit decision because of a surprise injury. You can't be waiting for the app to load or struggling to navigate through it. It has to be smooth, it has to work, and Yahoo Fantasy checks the boxes. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer way to play fantasy football on Yahoo where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Moving on with the Locked On Vikings podcast, let's keep going down this depth chart and discuss a little bit more about the trenches and the tight end situation. The tight end situation is a little bit fluid after TJ Hawkinson and Josh Oliver. I don't think you're going to see either of those guys very much at all. By the way, CJ Ham also probably not going to play. You're just not going to do fullback stuff in the preseason. Why do it, right? Keep that part of your playbook under wraps anyways. CJ Ham doesn't need the preseason. So after those two guys, right, Gavin Bartholomew he's got lower back issues. He's on PUP right now. I don't even know if he plays this season, but he probably starts the season on at least PUP or IR with a designation to return. opening the door for 2 undrafted rookies, Ben Urasek out of Georgia and Bryson Nesbitt out of UNC. There's also Giovanni Ricci and Nick Vannett, 2 more like journeyman veteran types. Nick Vannett's been in the league for 10 years, but he wasn't on a team until very recently. And to me, that Nick Vannett signing kind of expresses a little bit of displeasure with Urasek and Nesbitt and Ricci. It happened while TJ Hawkinson was dealing with a minor hip injury. He's back from that, so it wasn't about that. It was about the depth, the second team couple of tight ends. To me, I don't know if the third tight end is on the roster right now, if they're already kind of signing people and aren't very satisfied with it. It might be Vannett, right? Again, 10-year veteran, right? But you're looking for anyone to show anything. There's no kind of Nick Muse that like definitely has that next man up spot anymore. It's you're looking for anybody to show anything there. And it really could be any number of guys. So Sam Howell hits the tight end in the end zone for a really big one. That could be extremely impactful for who wins that tight end 3 spot. And if there's, blown blocks and stuff, that could mean that it's coming off of somebody else's cut down day. Okay, the O-line. So here's the thing about this. I doubt you see much, if at all, of the first team O-line. You're certainly not going to see Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, or Christian Darrisaw. All of those guys are dealing with injuries ranging from minor to, Christian Darrisaw still working back from his major injury last year. You're definitely not going to see Brian O'Neill. I don't think you're going to see anything of those 4 guys. Donovan Jackson, you could see some of as a rookie. It sort of makes sense to get some tread on his tires. Just to get out ahead of anything, he has not been competing with Blake Brandel at all. He has not been trading any reps at all or anything. If they put him in, it's you're a rookie. We need you to get some run, right? And then you get a look at Donovan Jackson. Selfishly, I'm hoping for that because I want to look at him a little closer and be able to see him on, clear all 22 tape instead of just like the clips from camp that you can get, which I did make a Patreon video out of. So go to patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL if you want to see how Donovan Jackson's training camp has been going. It's like 45 minutes of me going over tape, like that's and focusing on mostly Donovan Jackson. That's all it is. But you're going to see the 2s. You're going to see probably Justin School. Maybe not if they anticipate that they're going to need him week 1, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like Christian Darrisaw has been working in more and more, and he's way ahead of schedule. So Christian Darrisaw for week 1 is looking pretty good right now based on how much he's been practicing. So if it's Justin School or maybe not, maybe it's Logan Brown or Walter Rouse over there. But then you're going to get Blake Brandel probably at right guard. Henry Bird maybe at left guard, or maybe it's like Joe Huber, who's actually gotten some second team reps. You're going to see Michael Juergens at center. I'm really looking for a redemption story from him. He had a god-awful preseason last year, stayed on the team as a draft pick. He didn't want to expose to waivers. He's also struggled in camp. So I'm hoping to see him show something. Otherwise, you could be looking at centers on the cut down day market as well. Zeke Correll, he's an undrafted rookie. Joe Huber out of Wisconsin, I already mentioned, undrafted rookie. And Logan Brown is one of the more interesting ones. Also, not on this unofficial depth chart, which tells you the kind of level of credibility it has, is Leroy Watson, who was a mid-camp ad, but he's been getting some reps with the 2s as well. He's another one of these journeymen that like hasn't made a team in a while. I believe he was I think he got added after OTAs, if I recall, and I believe he was a tight end for a long time in college, so he's still kind of new to the position. But he's like a good athlete. So like there's a potential to it. He's just kind of got to bulk up and get a little bit more used to true O-line rather than just inline tight end blocking. That O-line situation to me is a matter of survival. It's an eliminator game. I don't know if there's any direct fights over roster spots too much. But rather it's who can screw up seldom enough to not ruin their chance at the roster that's already kind of there, because the bottom of the depth is pretty set and there's not many serious challengers. Justin School, Blake Brandel, Michael Juergens, Walter Rouse. You could give Leroy Watson or Logan Brown a chance to maybe knock Rouse off, but Rouse has had a reasonable camp so far. And if anything, I think Justin School has a better chance to get cut because he's had a horrible camp. It's just that most of that horrible camp has been against Jonathan Grenard, so you kind of give him a lot of grace for it. But so maybe a little bit of intrigue at that tackle, but mostly it's like, look, if Walter Rouse has a horrible preseason game, you're out of here, dude. And you're going to bring in some undrafted rookie, or again, maybe look at cut down day, but it's more of an eliminator game versus like the wide receivers or the running backs where these guys, these plucky upstarts that are like nipping at the heels of the established roster spot holders. On the defensive line, it's sort of a similar, or it's a little bit more of a wide open situation. I mean, you're not going to see Grenard or Van Ginkel or probably any of the starting five, Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, Javon Hargrave, and those two. You are going to see Dallas Turner. That's been confirmed. Ron Johnson said it on the Vikings squad show. So I'm very excited to see that. He has been, one of the stories of camp has been that Dallas Turner has taken a step forward. It looks really great. He's been playing with the twos a lot, but hey, for one, the twos go up against the ones quite a bit. Problem is you're still getting Justin School, right? But he has flashed a lot. He's explosive. He's beaten the heck out of the twos, by the way. He does not look like he belongs on the twos. He looks like a starter playing against the twos. And the team has hyped him up a lot on the podium. So it's time to see if that's real or if it was all just bluster trying to run interference for your beloved draft pick that's not working out, right? You will see a little bit of him. I don't think he's going to play a lot. It's going to be like Ty Chandler situation where he's probably out after like the first series or two. But they are going to get a little tread on his tires. And also they just sort of like math-wise need to, because after Dallas Turner, there's only 4 outside linebackers left. And you don't necessarily want to have those only four guys for the rest of the whole game. So Dallas Turner is just going to take a little bit off their plate. But then you have Gabriel Murphy, who's probably the second team outside linebacker, second team edge rusher. And the 3 challengers for that are Tyler Batty, Bo Richter, and Chaz Chambliss. Chaz Chambliss was hurt for a bunch of camp. He is back, but he's probably in a pretty distant last. The really interesting guys there are Tyler Batty and Bo Richter. They are very much challenging for Gabe Murphy's job. This is one where I definitely think you could see an overturn in the preseason. Gabe Murphy could have a bad game and Bo Richter or Tyler Batty has a good game, and you could see that depth chart switch. And Bo Richter, by the way, as a special teams kind of do-it-all guy, has a really good path to the roster regardless of if he overtakes Gabriel Murphy. It's really watching Tyler Batty. If you want to see a guy, maybe the moment he proves he should be on this team or not, keep an eye on Tyler Batty. And on the inside, some interesting developments have gone down. Levi Drake Rodriguez has been another sort of story on this D-line. The story of camp has been the D-line's crushing the O-line first, second, third team. Not having Darasaw, not having Fries, not having Ryan Kelly for a bunch of it, a lot of veteran rest days and stuff. And a rookie in Donovan Jackson having his ups and downs. Like, it's understandable, but it's also like that second team line. Henry Bird and Michael Juergens are worthless. Justin School, Blake Brandel getting killed all the time. And Levi Drake Rodriguez has been the perpetrator of a lot of that violence. He has overtaken Taki Taimani. He's listed above Taki Taimani on the depth chart. That matches with what Tyler Forness, who's been kind of my camp correspondent, has seen when he has gone to camp and seen Levi Drake Rodriguez with the twos more often. Jalen Redmond has a firm hold, I think, on the 4th sort of interior D lineman job. He's been doing great in camp as well. Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins is sort of the wild card around there. I don't know how much run he's going to get in the season, but you're going to see a lot of him in preseason. So you get to get a look at the draft pick there. And then you've got some guys on the bottom like Jonathan Harrison, Travis Bell. But really, I think the intrigue is watching Levi Drake Rodriguez and Taki Taimani. Because this is another situation where camp has made a thing happen on the depth chart, and the preseason can overturn that if it goes against what we've seen in camp. If Levi Drake Rodriguez sucks and Taki Taimani gets 2 sacks, we're putting him right back in the second team without a moment's hesitation. The secondary, and then I do want to talk a little bit about the special teams, even though we've already touched on it. But like, here's the thing about preseason: the K tape in preseason will be your best predictor of like spots 50 to 53 on the roster. So it's really important to talk about special teams in a serious way. And to watch special teams in the preseason in a serious way, even though it's not the most exciting thing, you got to see who's gunning punts and how they are doing at it. That's how you kind of suss out, whoa, there's going to be a Najee Thompson on the team. And those kinds of like cut down day, surprisey kind of things. You won't be surprised by them. And that's my goal for you, is for you to be surprised as little as possible. That'll all be next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It's a grape, ginger, and lime flavored 5 Hour energy drink. It's perfect for the golf course. It's perfect for that like back nine lull that can get you sometimes. When I was a kid, I worked at a golf course. It was the Wilds in Prior Lake. I worked there when I was a teenager, and I was a teenager just after 5 Hour and had that job just after 5 Hour Energy hit the market as a product in the first place. So it was a very like new trendy thing, and all of the golfers would have an empty 5 Hour Energy in their golf carts after they would leave, and that's how you know that it was perfect, and it still is to this day. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off of your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Moving along here with the Locked On Vikings podcast, let's wrap this out by talking a little bit about what's going on in the secondary and then some special teams. The secondary is, again, there's like in the linebacker room, even in the linebacker room, which is one of the more solidified positions on the roster, there's still a little bit of intrigue. I would say Blake Cashman, Ivan Pace, you probably won't see. I don't think you're going to see a lot of Eric Wilson either. I think you can take those three, lock them on the roster, and set them aside. Really, the intrigue here is going to be Brian Asamoah and Kobe King, and they're going to play next to each other. That's at least my guess for how this goes. So which linebacker is doing better? And you can directly compare play to play. Who is doing what? Who's making the play? It's kind of tough because one will be play side, one will be backside. So the play side linebacker is going to have more responsibility and a better chance to make a play, but also a better chance to screw up. The unofficial depth chart lists Brian Asamoah ahead of Kobe King. That does not match what has happened in camp. Brian Asamoah has been pretty firmly with the third team, Kobe King with the second team. So this is another one where I'm not sure if the unofficial depth chart is the authority here, because that is not how the coaches have been ordering their depth chart all camp long. But because you're not going to see Cashman or Pace, these two guys are going to get a ton of run. Even if Eric Wilson plays, it's going to be like Dallas Turner and JJ McCarthy and those guys, and maybe Jalen Naylor, and those guys that are going to play for one or two series and then be out of the game. It's going to be these guys. You also have Austin Keys, Dorian Mousey, the other Auburn linebacker, has already been released. He'll probably pop in. And then here's the interesting thing, and this is going to be how you can really tell where the coaching staff is on these two guys. One of Asamoah and Kobe King will come out, and Austin Keys will come in. Whoever comes out is ahead, right? I wouldn't be shocked if it were Kobe King that stays a lot just as a rookie. You want to get him more reps, but that would imply, right, that Brian Asamoah is still gunning for that roster spot. Also has a lot of special teams going for him, so it'll be hard to knock him off the roster entirely. However, I have not had Asamoah in any of my 53-man roster projections. I do think that Kobe King will knock him off. It's just not going to be as easy as just doing it from scrimmage. You have to show some special teams as well. Okay, cornerback. I have complained a ton about the cornerback group. What we are going to see in the preseason isn't really pertinent to that. Byron Murphy, Isaiah Rodgers, maybe even Jeff Okudah, probably not going to play. Actually, I think you're going to see Okudah and Blackman start this one. Those guys are still kind of in a competition over the third spot and the fourth spot. So I think you're going to see those guys at least start it off. But then, and this is where the unofficial depth chart doesn't match the camp narratives at all. Zemiah Vaughn is last on the unofficial depth chart. I doubt he comes in last and is only a fourth quarter guy that then gets cut as the 88th player on the roster. He has been another one of the kind of surprise risers in camp. He's been playing a lot with the second team and less and less with the third team. And he is very much ahead of Ambry Thomas, Keenan Garber, Reddy Stewart, who's been hurt. And Dwight McGlothern. Those two guys have kind of been cornerbacks 5 and 6. So I'm really curious to see those guys, but that's really what you're going to see. And I think it's going to be a little bit of, okay, like a similar thing to Lucky Jackson. Solidify what we have seen from you in camp. Go out against another team on a real football field in a real game situation and show it. And if those two guys can do that, I think they solidify, and your cornerback group will be Byron Murphy, Isaiah Rodgers, Jeff Okudah, Mekhi Blackman, Dwight McGlothern, and Zemiah Vaughn. That is the chalk group to me right now. And it's one of those guys gets burned all the time, then you start opening your mind and going, okay, maybe we do reconsider Reddy Stewart if he gets healthy. Maybe we do take another look at Ambry Thomas, who's been on the wrong side of some pretty big offensive highlights, by the way. As has Keenan Garber with the third team. Anytime you see, look at this cool Max Brosmer throw, Ambry Thomas is getting cooked. So that's rough. And then really quickly on the safeties, there are a couple of guys listed at safety who didn't start listed as safety, Tavier Thomas and Khalif Hilasi. They also added Gavarius Owens last week. You also have the Miami undrafted rookie and Mish Powell. So Harrison Smith, Josh Metellus will certainly not play. Theo Jackson probably won't play. I put him in the same Naylor category. Maybe you get a series. Jay Ward has been a very exciting camp narrative. He has made a ton of plays. I'm going to guess you get a lot of Jay Ward in the same kind of world that Brian Asamoah would play, where it's like, you have been a draft pick on the bottom of this roster for a while. Let's give you a big run, see if you can still do this, or if we want to turn to someone new and younger. But Jay Ward has kind of been answering that call and showing that he still deserves not only a place on the roster, but maybe even a place in the real rotation in the regular season. And nobody of Mish Powell or like Tavir Thomas or Halasi has really stepped up to challenge him for that job. So those four safeties are pretty locked in. And I don't know how much intrigue there is at the safety position in this one, unless Jay Ward has a really bad game, and then it opens the door to all these young guys. Really quickly on the special teams. So right now on the unofficial depth chart, the listed competitions for kick returner and punt returner, Ty Felton has the kick return job with Ty Chandler behind him, and the punt returner job is currently listed to Rondale Moore, with Lucky Jackson, Silas Bolden, Miles Price all behind him. That all matches what we've seen in camp. The order is neither here nor there, but that's who has been competing for those jobs in camp. And so I'm really curious to see who the returners are. How many return opportunities we actually even get is going to be a thing. Like if the defense plays really well and Davis Mills falls apart, we might not get a lot of kickoffs. We might only get one. So I hope we do get some kickoff and punt opportunities. If they score all the time and Davis Mills cooks us, right, they won't punt a lot. I hope we get a decent balance of those two, just to be able to see if Rondale Moore takes every punt, okay, the job is his. That kind of tells you, they don't even want to look at these other guys. Okay, then it's over. But if it rotates a whole bunch, then you get a chance to have guys separate themselves. The other one to watch is the gunners. Always watch the gunners on those punts, who it is and how they do. Ty Felton as a punt gunner is the thing he was most known for on special teams. That is the special teams ability that turned him from a random Big Ten receiver to a guy that is day two to them. That upped his draft stock a lot, specifically the gunning. So I want to see that. I want to see him break down and tackle a little better than he did in college and really play a more controlled style. Who the other gunner is going to be fascinating. Tim Jones is maybe the most experienced. He is listed very low on the wide receiver depth chart, but you also have Lucky Jackson, Rondale Moore, a whole bunch of fast guys, Tavir Thomas, Jay Ward, who has some experience doing it, although he struggled a lot when he did it. Jay Sean Jones, Miles Price. You have a lot of competition for that other gunner spot. And if Tim Jones can hang on to it, that might be the only way he makes this roster. The other special teams thing, obviously, is the punting job, Ryan Wright and Oscar Chapman. It sounds like Ryan Wright has had a perfectly fine camp and hasn't really ceded any ground to Oscar Chapman. So I would anticipate that he's winning that job right now, but it's far from over. And then obviously you want to see Will Reichard make some kicks. He has had a very shaky camp, Will Reichard. He's missed way too many kicks in 11-on-11 drills. So you want to see him have a good day and not make the Vikings suddenly start going in considering bringing in some veteran or somebody else's camp cut to be the kicker. Not second year of a draft pick. That would be pretty rough. I will see you all on the other side of this. I'll see you all tomorrow for the postcast. And if you're not going to listen to the postcast, I will see you all on Monday. And as always, Skull.